lights are out and you stumble in the dark. You kept pushing on, but then you went too far. When your ship has sailed and all your dreams are lost, everything is wrong, you feel like it's your fault. Just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just remember. Just remember. Just remember. You're stronger now than you ever been. You gotta leave now, it's time to catch the wind. You will climb up high and look through the clouds. And when you're feeling low, I know you'll bounce back. Oh, and just remember, I will be there for you, baby. Remember, there's nothing out there to get you, don't forget it. When life throws lemons, just remember. Just remember. Just remember. Just remember.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sim Racing Media Network. We are live here from beautiful Homestead-Miami Speedway, a special one for the Sim Racing Media Network. We're bringing to you live the Ruff-Neck Racing Truck Series, brought to you by James Wagner's Welding. As always, a big shout out to them and AdminBoxx for all their support for the Ruff-Neck Racing Series. My name is Angel Santiago. I am joined tonight by nobody at the moment. However, Race Control, Penguin, he's going to jump in here for a little bit and just chat with us to start the evening. How are we doing tonight, Paul?
Doing good. How are you, Angel?
Man, I am doing good myself. Thanks for jumping in here with me while these drivers get out there and get some qualifying laps done. Paul, I saw you out there in that practice session that they had before this race. Tell me a little bit about the racetrack, how these trucks are driving, and maybe what some of these drivers were experiencing or will be experiencing here for tonight's race.
Tonight's race is going to be interesting. The track has a very complex pattern to it. There is going to be a couple of definite lines depending on the control of each driver and where they feel comfortable. The low line is super nice. It is fast, but it does have its hiccups, especially coming out of 2 and 4. It's got a bump coming out of both of those. The high line is interesting just because it can throw you up into the wall, or it can bring you down. So I think throttle control tonight is going to be the key for all these drivers. The other thing is, what's the humidity going to do? Is it going to be a slick track, or is it going to stick tonight?
Man, and humidity is a thing that, well, if it was realistic, you couldn't turn it off here at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Personally, I've been to the track, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times for the races. So, it's one that I've always enjoyed. The racing is fantastic. Even when it feels like it gets strung out, just watching those drivers send it, because we usually sit off of turn 1. So seeing those drivers just send it into turn 1 right up against the wall, oh, it is such an awesome experience to see.
And we should have the same kind of racing tonight here with the Ruff-Neck League and the trucks. I'm going to hop out for just a second here so I can do my pre-race with these guys. But I will come back and check in with you guys, of course, during all the penalties.
Perfect, Paul. Thank you so much for joining us to start this one. Have a good night tonight.
You do the same, Angel.
Want a big shout out again to Paul, our race control. Give a shout out to race control, as I always say whenever you get a chance to, in the comments. You know, it's one of those thankless jobs as well, because typically people are not happy with him, but that also means he's got to do his job the right way. These drivers are all set now, so we'll go ahead and get to our starting. Well, actually, before we do our starting lineup, I'll go over our race info quickly. 77 degrees for the ambient temp. 46% humidity is what Paul was bringing up. That's going to make the track kind of slick, which, well, Homestead is one of those slick tracks already, so I'm excited. Altitude, all of 4 feet. Very, very true. Right on the water, almost, as you would say. And only 2 miles per hour wind, so it shouldn't be too much of an effect. We've got a night race tonight, which is going to also add some grip to the track, so we're excited. Howdy, thanks for joining us, Duke. Unfortunately, Sam is out today. His job has had to keep him for another week. We're hoping that he will be back next week. He's definitely not happy. He was really, really looking forward to Homestead, so we'll be happy to have him back here next week. We may have somebody join partway through, but we'll see from here.
All right, I'm chiming in now. You think I'm gonna miss a night race at Homestead, Angel?
John has joined us, man. That was perfectly timed.
I've been sitting here for a second. I'm not missing a night race at Homestead, especially when you've got all these Ford, Chevys, and Toyotas. The stars aligned. Dave is going to be on the other show, and now I'm here tonight. I think this is going to be a little bit of a fun one because this is my favorite racetrack.
Oh, John, it is one of my favorites as well. I was just mentioning at the top of the broadcast, it's a special one for the Sim Racing Media Network. We've been out here a couple of times and talking about how enjoyable it is to see these the trucks and the cars we got to see, of course, sending it into turn 1 right up against the wall. In the meantime,
I'm looking forward to this.
I'm so looking forward to this as well. Daniel Love, pole position. No surprise, John. This is a guy who knows speed. He knows how to get to the front. Ryan, we haven't seen him in quite a while. I'm probably going to butcher his name again, but we'll get over to that in a little bit because I always love to butcher his last name. iRacing.com pace truck is down pit lane. We're going to go through the Geico restart zone, and we're green flag racing here from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Daniel Love, not his first career pole. I think he's probably got 3 or 4 up until this point. Looking for career win number 1, and here he sends it into 1. He's got it clear for first. It's a battle for second between Christopher Barker and Ryan Gomes.
You know, as we're coming out of turn number 2 onto the backstretch, these drivers aren't taking any time to show you the many different lane options you have here at Homestead. You're going to see guys running the high lane, the low lane, and then others that are going to take the diamond route into the corner. So there's really 3 different ways to run this racetrack, which makes it so enjoyable. It is a driver's track, and you can change your line throughout the run to make your car, or in this case, truck, perform in the manner that you're looking for it. Always a blast to be at this track, and boy, I wish I were out there.
You know, these drivers held a practice session before this race started, before the entire session, and I jumped in for a little bit, wanted to get a good feel for the trucks. You know, Homestead, as much as I love it, it's just a track that I am no good at, and so I wanted to see what these drivers were feeling, and really from the start, I noticed that the grip is there, but at the same time, you could immediately lose it. So these drivers are going to be on edge to try to keep it together, but at the same time trying to find that mixture of speed, because you already see Ryan Gomez, he put down a lap 0.2 quicker than Barker and half a second quicker than Daniel Love that time around. So he's a man on a mission already to start this race.
Yeah, he is moving. His best lap at a 32.88 is flying around here with these trucks. You know, the average lap I'm seeing about 33, roughly 33.4 is about the average. But we've got drivers still, of course, in the 32.8s all the way down to the 34.13. I'm curious to see under the lights what the fall off is going to be. I imagine we have the opportunity for a couple, perhaps one green flag pit stop in this one, pending some carnage that might occur right there out of the corner. You saw those drivers getting loose right there on the left side of the screen. Yeah. What I'm curious to see is tire fall off over the course of 25 laps.
And that's one of those things that at Homestead where you have to find, whoa, the 96, Matthew Ace going to get real loose there, 2, 3, and 4. Great save for him. And, I mean, that thing bobbled and bobbled and bobbled. One thing I did realize is that you can hit the brakes and it'll stop the truck from wrecking, but you also don't want to just hit the brakes in the middle, in front of all these drivers. So you're trying to find that balance. And you're talking about the tire wear. That's going to hurt the 96's tire wear as well. Getting loose like that, it really does anger your tires, and it's not going to help the life of them. So you're going to have to find a way to keep it stable, save tires, and try to manage your way around these other drivers.
Well, similarly to Auto Club, turn 4, that wall on the front stretch will come out and bite you if you're not looking for it, which could be what set Matt Barker up right there, and he got on the brake. But the next thing you need to know is if you're slow out of turn 4, you just get freight trained. You have no momentum, and popular to contrary belief, and these drivers could attest to it, this is really a momentum racetrack. It's odd because it's not a 2-mile track, but it's a momentum-based racetrack, and that's why you saw him drop about 6 positions. He's all the way back to 10th now.
Oh, man, the 77, Adam Sprinkle, we saw him get loose as well. Great job of him saving the truck coming off of turn 4. Some of these drivers still hitting their fastest laps of the day, even into the 7th lap. Last year's champion, Christopher Barker, he's the fastest here on this last time around, making 33-second lap time. So he's a driver that last year, again, mentioning he was a champion, but tire wear was something that he struggled with a little bit. So it's something I know he wanted to try to focus on this year. And right now, your points leader coming into this race was Jimmy Rowdy, and he's mired back in a little bit of traffic right now, back here in the 12th position. But I don't think this was a track he was looking forward to. I think that's why he was the one setting up a practice session before. He wanted as much time as he could get.
Some people just struggle on this track, similarly to how they struggle on Auto Club. And Auto Club's like a larger Homestead in a sense, at least in the way that I feel like that it drives. But I feel like I have really good speed. Well, 3 years ago I felt like I had speed, back when I raced. But I just thoroughly enjoy Homestead, and like I said, it's a driver's track, and if you can figure out the feel for the track, you can always perform well here. But there's a really fine line in running fast and then quickly wearing your tires out. And that's why I'm curious to see what the fall off is for the trucks, because I know with the Gen 6 car, you'll be there, you'll be there, you'll be there, and then you'll sail off into a corner and the grip is gone.
Gone.
I'm curious to see how the trucks perform, because I don't have any truck experience here at Homestead. All Xfinity car and Gen 6.
It's been a couple of months since I had a truck race here, but it was probably 2 weeks after the oval refresh, where they made where you could actually use different lanes throughout some of these tracks, and it made Homestead for a fun race. And that outside really developed well on the longer runs, because again, as you mentioned, it's a momentum track. So once these tires start to get old, you're slipping and sliding, you're struggling. At that point, you're just trying to keep as high a speed as you possibly can, and rotating right around that outside really helped. But at the same time, if you keep your left sides on that seam, kind of running in the middle, it was a good way to help save tire and also not lose too much time on the long run. But it really does, as well as you mentioned, it's a driver's track, so it's going to depend on what is your feel. And here we are now, 11 laps completed into this race, and Christopher Barker's 1.4 seconds behind Ryan Gomez. Gomes. So we'll have to see as you mentioned, John, how many laps is it going to take before we start seeing Chris Barker reel him in? If we do see him do that at all, because Ryan has also had plenty of fresh air in front of him.
You know, I just think, and you're saying Gomes, I believe, or maybe Gomez.
Well, it's supposed to be Gomes, I think, because I kept screwing it up when it was Gomez. So when I kept saying Gomez, so I know it's not Gomez.
Well, I would assume there'd be the Z with that little apostrophe thing on top of it, but I can't tell that on the timing and scoring. All I do know is that he's leading the race by 1.65 seconds, and he's about 5/10 of a 5/100 of a second faster than the other top two drivers of Barker and James Wagoner. I couldn't tell you for sure. I wish I could see his average lap time over the last 13 laps, and then compare that to the average lap time of Christopher Barker and James Wagoner for the whole race to see how much faster he's running. I haven't really taken a good look at the actual line, but a lot has to go with throttle control, getting back on the throttle, off smooth, on smooth, you know, and not really sawing that wheel apart there. And so curious to see, but at this point he keeps stepping away. Curious to see if that Toyota, that 46 Christopher Barker, does reel him back in the next 15 laps or so. I have a pretty good thought that we're going to know who our guys to beat are here at about the 30 lap mark.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it. They are already over the last 4 laps, over the last 5 laps. And if you throw in an extra 6th lap for Ryan, his lap time has dropped by almost half a second. So I think we're already seeing that effect here, 10 laps into the run already. Granted, for a driver who probably may have been pushing a little bit more than some of these other ones.
Well, and you know, and this is a track that's why. So let's go back to the 3 different lines you could use. When you start changing from each one of those lines in the middle of the corner, that's where you start destroying your tires. When you stick to one or the other, you don't seem to scrub the tires as far off. Somebody that's a better racer than me, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but I could stand corrected. But when there's a truck in the wall at there down the back, coming out turn number 2, but when you start going, when you take the high lane and then decide halfway through or 3/4 of the way through the turn, you're going to turn down and go to the low lane, you're really working the right front and the right rear tire a lot. And so if you don't run the consistently same lap, you really will eat your stuff up quickly.
Yeah, and of course that's what you want to avoid. And in this scenario, I want to almost help validify what you were trying to say, in that trying to stick to the same lane helps your tire wear. For all the reasons, and again mentioning momentum, but it's a rhythm thing. So the better rhythm you get, the better you can do saving your tire while also not scrubbing as much speed, if that makes sense, because you're now consistently doing the same thing. You're getting better at doing that. You're kind of finding what's working, you know. And also the big thing is you have to also adjust your driving style as the run goes and as your tires wear, because you can still keep saving tire deep into a run as long as you are adjusting the way. You can't drive it in as hard or keep trying to drive it in as deep or hitting the brake as hard, or, you know, you got to adjust that as well to be able to, of course, gain speed, but also continue to save that tires. We see the leaders only lost about 3/10 now so far to Barker, now down to 1.3 seconds.
And so I want to go back to adjusting, fine-tuning as you're going through the corner. We use a flying analogy. So when you're learning how to be a private pilot, there's a couple different maneuvers. There's something known as points around a turn, and then there's something called S-turns. Well, the S-turn, let's paint the picture here. You find a highway while you're flying. You do this about 1,000 feet off the ground, sometimes 500 feet. And what you're going to do is you're going to start perpendicular to the highway. So if the highway is in front of you, you're going to fly to it, you're going to cross it, and then you're going to make a right turn and keep turning. And when you turn around, you're going to cross it again facing the other direction. And then you're going to make a left turn and do the same thing. And what's so difficult about that is the wind is coming from a different direction. So when you get to the opposite side of the wind, you have to fine-tune the way that you use the controls to fly the airplane. Same thing with these cars. These corners are a little bit different than the other, so you have to fine-tune and find that exact way and that slight little bit of difference to get the car or the truck to turn the way that you want it to. And if you do it too much on the plane, you fail the maneuver, and if you do it too much in the vehicle, you wear out the tires. And now we're starting to see a lot of those guys right there, the 96 and the 29. I thought that was a really good rendition of showing some drivers that have a tight let's see, a tight characteristic of the vehicle. They seem to be pushing a little bit up the track as they were coming into turn 3, and you can see it here as well. They're really on that throttle, trying to keep it out of the wall there. A lot of seesaw action on that MPI wheel as well.
Yeah, and especially him being in a little bit of dirty air. You see him looking to the inside of the 77. He must be clear of that 29. And listen to the throttle.
So he's really scrubbing that right rear.
He's coming to pit lane, actually. Okay, this is perfect timing for pit lane. Did he get slowed up in time is the question.
You know, I wonder if that was an intentional pit.
21 laps in. I mean, these guys get about 75% fuel, if I'm not mistaken. So I can see that if you want to go ahead and maybe divide this up on a perfect, 3 stops, lap 20-ish. Oh, man, the 55, your leader, got extremely loose there off of turn number 4, and that's going to cost him what's already 0.3 of a second just down the front stretch and getting that loose. And as you mentioned, the momentum off of 4 and how it can affect you when you don't get it right. And I like that you brought up California Auto Club and how similar both this track is, or both of those tracks are, while being so different. It just makes sense because I suck at both of them. So I love both of the tracks, but I suck at both of them no matter what I do.
Well, Angel, you do a lot more driving than you do talking, so you ought to be a little bit better at driving than talking. And so
well,
I'm confused if that's not the case, because you're pretty good at talking.
It's funny because Rebecca, I was just talking about that Rebecca earlier. She's like, well, I thought you were gonna do maybe an extra show or something. I thought you mentioned. I was like, well, I was trying to help out. But what happened was I said, I just, how much I love driving. And she's like, but I thought you were better at broadcasting than driving. I'm like, I am, but I'm just too stubborn because I love driving so much. But
you're definitely a better talker.
Broadcasting is what's paying the that renewal here in 2 months. So
fair point. That's a fair statement.
So I'm gonna imagine that for Matthew Ace, that wasn't an intentional pit, but he made it work because he didn't speed. He had a 14.9 second pit stop, so he didn't speed coming down pit lane. I mean, so
that minimizes. So I'm thinking he just got loose out of the corner because he's awfully seesawing, back and forth out of the corner, and so he made something out of a bad mistake. He realized he was slow, and he's like, well, I'm probably going to pit in 10 laps anyway. Let me just go ahead now, and I may not lose as much time. Just an assumption. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk with him. I'd be curious to know what happened or what his thoughts are.
And that I agree as well. I would like to have an opportunity, hopefully, here at one point tonight. But here we are now, lap 26. We've completed 25 laps. We're going to look at this lap data here between your two leaders as the 55 gets super loose again off of turn number 4. And I don't think I need to tell you whose truck is handling a little bit better as the 46 is going to dive to the inside here into turn 1.
Well, and that's going to give us the answer right there that Gomes wore his truck out, getting out to that lead. And that's one of those weird things about this track. And look at that, right around a lap 30, sort of where I was thinking. That was just a wild guess. It's like I've been broadcasting for a while now.
Well, you are a good broadcaster, that's for sure.
I'm just a good guesser. But you can see that right there, and now the lap times are falling off for Gomes. He's about half a second slower, 0.3 of a second slower each time around now than Christopher Barker, who abided his time. And and you can see the difference right there you put on the screen. And of course, it only gives you four laps worth. I wish it would give you about 5 or 6 laps worth. But you can see the change each and every lap. And you also got to remember, though, these guys could have an incident. So like lap 26, that was probably an incident for Gomes. And then 27 again, another
that's when he got super loose.
Car again.
We saw him sideways off of the corner. I think that might have been what contributed to that one. And then you look on to third place here, where it looked like James Wagoner, you see him, well, he was catching him. But over these last couple of laps, it seems like he's losing him again. So maybe James as well, who that was also one of his struggles he had mentioned from last season, is that he wanted to work on his tire saving. He's like, all right, I've been able to find speed. My teammates, all his teammates, he said, big shout out to them, helped him a ton find that speed. but it's all about trying to save tires and put an entire race together. James has got race-winning speed. He's just not been able to put that entire race together. And right now, running in third, only 2.5 seconds behind the leader. It takes one mess up for the leader coming down pit lane, which is very, very possible, especially on these old tires. But while I've been blabbing, we actually had a couple drivers hit pit lane. Looks like the 77 of Adam Sprinkle, Jimmy Rowdy, your points leader coming into tonight's race, and the 14 of Andrew Smith, your season 1 champion. And then looks like Mickey DeVino, oh no, he was just behind him there. There it is, and actually your second place driver, who was Ryan Gomes, he's going to make his way down pit lane here on lap 30. Hey, exactly what you called, or 30 laps into it.
Well, so that leads me to wonder, are these guys going to pit again with about 9 or 8 laps to go, or if this is what it's going to be? And so will some of these drivers try to hang out a little bit longer or not? So I'm curious if they're at the edge of fuel or if this is tire-based while they're coming in right here. I know we may never find out, judging on how these guys are spreading out. And Angel, I know back a long time ago, I was in a Homestead race with you, and it was very low cautions because we just all got spread out.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things that, and again, I love that you mentioned, that it was so similar to Auto Club. I just had 200-lap races at Auto Club, and one in trucks and one in Gen 6, and we had 2 cautions between the 2 races. So everybody just got spread out to the point where it allowed everybody to race, do their thing, and yeah, it just ended up a long green flag runs, and that probably caught a lot of these drivers by surprise this first time around, because some of them might have been a little bit more conservative, saying I'm just going to stay back, save some tires, hope these guys don't wreck in front of me, we only get the one fast repair, and turns out they start, you have a full 33 lap run, and all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball because you decided you wanted to save tires at first, which I can't blame you, because that's the first thing that I would do.
Yeah, and you have to find a fine line, or find the fine line in between saving and going, because if you save too much, like you said, you're just too far back. But if you go too soon, you end up looking like Gomes does and start falling back. And I'm curious to know if he's going to come out advantageous after everything cycles through. It looks like he's just ahead of Christopher Barker now by about a second. But if what we just saw pans out again, I assume Barker will catch him in about 24 laps, and we'll be doing the same thing.
Well, I mean, and the difference is that they're actually much closer, however. Barker was 1.6 seconds back when he started his charge, and right now 1 second back from him. And you also have to wonder where did some of these drivers come in with their steering ratios? We don't typically talk about steering ratios a ton, but that's one of those few adjustments in a fixed series that these drivers have available to them. And I know a lot of times people say it is a driver feel, but regardless, at the end of the day, the lower steering ratio in these trucks will cause you to use more tire because you're sawing at the wheel more, or it's what's a better way to explain that, Jonathan? Maybe I'm not explaining it the best way.
It just makes the car twitchier. So if you're more, let's say, more liable to twitch, and that's the only way to put it. If you're more of a twitchy driver, if you can't hold the wheel steady, you're going to want the higher ratio. If you're very steady, the lower ratio, you can get a little bit more speed and a little more bite out of it. But the problem is once you seesaw a few times back and forth, or it gets away from you because of that bit of a twitch, it's gonna wear your tires out. So think of it like this: when you're playing a shooter game, some guys are low sensitivity. They're not quite as fast as the guys that are high sensitivity. But the problem is with the high sensitivity guy, when you pull the Joy-Con or the stick there to turn to the left or the right, you might go past your target. And that's the same thing that happens here when you go with the lower ratio, at least on iRacing.
Perfect. And
I don't know if that explained it any better, but somebody in the fans group, a shooter fan, and they get it.
There you go.
If not, tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. Not gonna hurt my feelings.
Speaking of the chat, we did miss it there for you, Duke. I believe when Jimmy dropped so many spots, that's probably when he had hit pit lane. That's why he was towards the back, because he has cycled back out here to the fourth position actually. So it's actually a pretty nice recovery for him, because we saw him running in the back. Actually, we talked about him not running very well. He's actually your biggest mover of the race as well. He started all the way back in the 14th position. So Jimmy Rowdy's a driver who. He did not win at all the entire first season, John, and it took him until halfway through season 2, maybe past that, to finally get that victory. And then he won back-to-back races. And he just kept figuring out how to win. So a driver we knew that was a championship contender going into this year, but absolutely, man, he's the man to beat right now, and he's made his way back all the way up from the 4th position, or up to the 4th position, and that's what champions are made of. You know, I know we're still early, but that's how you build your championship resume. You have nights like tonight where you qualified 14th, you weren't running well, and yet here you are somehow back in the top 5.
Well, you know, let's take a minute. Let's talk about real NASCAR. Your favorite driver number 22, has a knack for taking a 15th or 20th place car and running in the top 10, top 7. And, you know, he made a mistake and he made something out of it, and he's got a handful right there out of the corner as he's going to go ahead and let that 78 go by. But he made an error, came down pit road, salvaged something from that, ends up short pitting, and he picks up some spots from that. Now he has to hold these guys off on 6 lap fresher tires. But if he gets a net gain from that, then you know he took an oops and actually made something out of it. And that's how you define champions, because it is every position. Every position does matter.
Yes, it does. I mean, and then you mentioned, you know, where talking about issues for other drivers, and the driver that we saw go down pit lane and lose it was that 96 of Matthew Ace, where that's the guy who's battling in, for points, and here he is now almost 4 wide, so, and in the wall a little bit, having to back off. So your championship competitor coming into tonight, you know, one of them got the pole. That was Daniel Love. You got to be a little bit worried about that, but in reality, then the next 2 drivers didn't show up tonight. So Jimmy's got a chance to really extend his points lead tonight as long as he plays. I think he just needs to have a good, mildly conservative, you know. You don't have to be too aggressive because Jimmy can be, but mildly conservative, you know. Take what was already been an okay day and make it great by gaining all those points with the misfortunes of your other competitors.
And so the way that I look at it, if I'm coaching a driver or coaching a race team, which I can't coach you to be a faster driver, but if I'm giving you the pep talk, at the end of the day, I want you to be in the top 1/3 of the field. You know, if there's 9 cars, you need to be in the top 3. I'll take the top half in a 30-car field, but really you want to be in the top 1/3, and I'd call that a good race. And by no means do you ever want to be in the bottom half of the field. So you do whatever you can do to stay above the bottom half, and if you can get a top 1/3 of the field, you've got a pretty good chance. The one problem with iRacing, though, is that a lot of times these leagues have massive skill gaps, and so you're going to get guys that are consistently finish 1, 2, 3, so where finishing in the top 1/3 isn't enough, and that can be frustrating at times. But for me personally, if you finish in the top 1/3 of an average field, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's correct. And as well for a lot of these drivers, is some of these guys can be fast, but they're also the ones who make mistakes and take themselves out of the race. So you got to put yourself in the right spot, you know, to go out and win a race if you can. And you got to be there at the right place at the right time. I did an official yesterday, which I never do. The truck's at Vegas, and
Ooh, that's a fun race.
It was okay.
Do you need a 4X shirt? Do you need that's a protest shirt?
I had to protest.
You need to
anybody,
protest
luckily.
somebody.
Luckily, I didn't have to protest anybody.
Speaking of that, we sell that's a protest shirt. So whenever your competitor wrecks you, you can always buy them a shirt and send it to them.
That's got to be one of the fun, the best things you can do, and you got to do that in your league racing too. Like, we had I was trying to convince somebody that we should sponsor that. It's like, all right, you know, like I want to sponsor it where we're gonna give a shirt to, you know, to these 2 drivers if they're wrecking on field. I don't know, something stupid like that, you know. But just to encourage that 4X the protest stuff. And one of them was like, you know what? I just need to get one of those on my own.
It gets expensive, but I do like that shirt. Yeah, that shirt's fun. We sent a couple out the other day. We did a full-length Daytona 500, and we did a giveaway, and sent 2 shirts out to 2 lucky fans. I think one was a driver, and one is the girlfriend of a driver. It's a fun time.
Oh,
Good time.
Awesome. That is pretty nice. Yeah, they ought to be pretty happy about that then here. One thing these drivers are probably almost unhappy with is they probably weren't sure coming into the night that they would be having this nice long green flag run. You know, we're halfway through the race already. It's lap 47 of 80. Some of these drivers probably said, man, I gotta go use the restroom. I thought I'd have a chance. You know, I didn't quite prepare myself. Or, you know, those times where you just kind of jump right in to the race and you're like, oh, that's fine. You know, next caution, I'll kind of go grab a cup of water or something like that. And next thing you know, you have a nice long green flag run and, you know, you're sitting there suffering as well.
Angel, I imagine that's happened to you. Pull into the pits. Well, I'm just going to give up 30 spots. I'll be back.
You know what? Hey, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. If I got to use the restroom, I got to use the restroom. I got
need to take good care. There you go, trucking the wall.
Steven Shu in that 0-0, up also 10 spots from his last place starting position in 20th. Smacked the wall pretty good there off of turn number 2. Andrew Smith right behind him, going to give him the room still. He probably could have gotten next to him, but I don't think Andrew wants to be on the bottom. You see all these drivers really running that high side right now.
Yeah, and that number 14 Ford, it seemed now he's going to try to make that left turn to pass the 0-0 in that Space Panda 14 machine. That was kind of a cool sponsor, Space Panda. As we're coming to lap 50 here in just a few moments, this race has really clicked away fast. No cautions, 50 of 80, only 30 laps to go, 30 minutes in race time. This race is absolutely flying by. Yes, I said absolutely, and I should be smacked for it. But the race is flying by, and I don't think we're going to get another caution unless someone just smokes the wall like that. Or I don't think we will get a caution.
It truly has gone by, but 28, 30 minutes for us, these drivers have probably felt it much worse. They're probably sitting here like, oh my, like they're getting tired. You know, your arms get tired, you know? You're just sitting there, they're yanking on the steering wheel, and especially at a track like Homestead, because you really got to work it at a track like this.
Let's not, well, yes, but let's talk about doing like 300 laps at Bristol or Martinsville, and then do that with a field that can handle that track.
I did.
So it's just on the brake, off the brake, on the gas, off the gas, on the brake, off the brake, on the gas, a little bit of both at the same time. Like eventually your knees are like, dude, are you sure?
That's how I felt.
I can't imagine that track in one of these actual machines.
That's how I felt when I did the iRacing Rolex 24, and I did, well, my buddy at the time who had the midnight to 6 a.m. shift fell asleep on me. So I didn't want to let the team down, so I just kept on racing. John, actually, no, you jumped in and helped me out with that.
Did I? I
yes,
did.
You jumped in at 10 in the morning.
You sent out an SOS, and I came out of nowhere, no practice,
yes,
and started running laps around in that machine.
And it was
out of nowhere. Wow, that's right. Holy cow, man.
That was 2 or 3 years ago, because it was. I had been racing since like 6 a.m. No, I had been racing since 2 a.m. straight. And the only time I had stopped was when I had to pit, or one time when I just simply said I had to go get some coffee or something. Oh man, I just remembered that. Yes, you came and saved me that day.
Wow. Oh man. I can't like remember it, but I remember jumping in to help.
It was just like, nope. I just remember showing up. That's all I had to do.
Wow. Oh, fun times. I wanted to do that this time around and do the Rolex. It hasn't panned out. For the first time in a year and a half, yesterday I reset up my wheel and pedals.
Oh my goodness.
So there is a potential chance that I might be back to racing. I'm supposed to race tomorrow for the Racers Elite Next Gen Series, one of our larger partners, but it's not going to pan out. It'll have to be next week. I'm going to have to miss the Daytona race.
What about Friday? What you got doing Friday?
I am trying to do some real world stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I was gonna say because Friday we're got Gen 6 at Dover, and I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm good at Dover.
I love
I came out of
Dover.
retirement and placed well at Dover.
Dover
Gen
has
6.
always been one of my favorite tracks. It's actually the Gen 4s are there for officials. A lot of throttle control. Oh my goodness. It is not easy
And he loops it out of turn 4.
every time.
Out of turn 2, he slams into the back wall. Yeah, you get a lot of that.
And Carlos, thanks for joining in with us as always. Rooting on Daniel Love there in that number 71 truck. Currently in the 5th position. Was your pole sitter today, so we know he's got speed. We'll see if he's able to make his way back up to the front. And our race control, John, typically our race control jumps in and he chats with us whenever we have a caution. He lets us know what happens. We haven't needed him tonight, so he jumped into YouTube at least to say he does love this racing as well.
That's nice to hear. I was listening to you guys talk ahead of time, and I do like how you said, green flag racing is always great for race control. But we're about done with this one. We got 23 laps remaining, and Ryan Gomes has figured it out. He oopsed it once. I don't think there's going to be a problem again.
He adjusted very well in this run, and that says something because, again, Christopher Barker is last year's champion, so by no means is that somebody, who's... no offense to Ryan, but he hasn't been able to be here for as many races. Oh, and here it is. We have our next round of pit stops as we're talking lap 57 or 58 now as we just crossed the line. So James Wagner and Matthew Gall making their way down pit lane. So the gap right now about 1.6 seconds, which is funny because that's about what it was before Christopher Barker started to chase him down. I think Chris Barker might be pitting here. Oh no, Ryan is. I feel like, wow, okay. I don't know if Ryan adjusted, if Chris came over the radio, called it, Ryan adjusted. I don't know what it is, but here it is. Now your pole sitter back up to the point on the lead, and then Johnny Hurst, he's now cycled over to the 2nd position. These two drivers have yet to hit pit lane for what I assume will be their final. Yeah, it should be their final pit stops of the day.
I'm looking at James Wagner. He's in 14th, pitting lap 57. I'm curious to know where these other guys end up. I'm also curious to know, can Daniel Love make it? 33 to 80.
No, definitely not, because I
don't think so.
Guys, I think Mikey Davino, he had stayed out the longest of anybody. He had pit on lap 36. So I kind of have to imagine that might be what the limit is. As Johnny Hurst makes his way down pit lane. So currently your top 3 drivers in Daniel Love, Chad Hawkins, Ty Trafford have not hit pit lane. And then Mickey Davino, because he stayed out so long, he lost so much time, was already a little bit further back. 20 to go from here. Mickey might even be in a position where he's just going to run it and then maybe take right side tires at the end. I don't know what some of these drivers might even do. Would you consider right sides, or do you just have too long of a race, or do you think to finish?
I hate to say this, but one of the things that iRacing has struggled with, I feel like, is the 2-tire stop. I don't think it does. I don't think it renders well. I don't think it ever works out, except for maybe the super speedway. The car just behaves so vastly different doing a 2-tire stop as opposed to a 4 that I just don't see any advantage with the 2. And the only advantage you would get is maybe a little bit of track position, but you can lose that in 2, 3, 4 laps. I'm always going to be getting 4.
So what I've learned, and I think I learned this a little bit with the trucks when I did that Vegas race, and just what I've done over the last season of racing I've done with trucks, is that right sides works under 10 laps. If you have it, if you have like a 5 to 10 lap run on a track like Homestead, where 5 to 10 laps isn't that big, but it can be beneficial. Right sides works where left sides it doesn't affect the balance as bad, if that makes sense. That's the only time for me it's worked. But Again,
I'm out of the game for a while right now, so it's very possible the tire model has vastly improved.
no, right sides when you have worn left sides is still no good. It's still no fun. It's still awful. It's still very, very awful.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how professionals do that with the rights or lefts, and how they hang on to it with how different the vehicles drive.
Well, I mean, and we also have to take into consideration the vast amount of adjustments that the real life is able to do in comparison to what we're able to do in iRacing, you know. Because I have to imagine that as a crew chief, you're going to adjust the tire pressure on the rights or on whatever ones you're putting on new to at least accommodate for a little bit of that, you know, because the left sides, the tire pressures are going to be jacked up a lot higher. So I imagine you have to compensate somehow in that situation. So
That's a good way of putting it. I assume, yeah, if you go ahead and pump the tire pressures up a little bit, they'll build temperature, I think, a little bit quicker. I think
Correct.
that's how that works.
Yes.
I'm not a crew chief. I wouldn't know. So, but I would assume you could do that, and then you could tighten the car up with a bit of a track bar adjustment or a wedge adjustment, something along those lines, and that could make it different.
Yeah, that's what I would say. You know, you have those little adjustments that you can make to get that feel. And as a driver, I wonder, you know, when you take right sides, do you have to put those left sides at a different part of the track, or do you need your right? Like, should your right sides be in the rubber for the grip and keep your left sides off, or do you want your left sides in the rubber? So I feel like there's so many things, and how often are you truly ever on two tires? So could it also be just a lack of experience for most drivers ever taking two?
I don't know, but you make me want to take two tires every time to figure it out. And I don't think that's going to work out for me ever.
You never listen to my decisions when it comes to
anything that's not Daytona.
Well, even then, I still can't figure it out.
Well, Daytona, you manage to stay in the front whenever you race.
I do love Daytona. Yes, you know, those types of tracks to stay up front. But I still can't ever figure out how to complete it there. One driver who
you need a lag switch, you know, like back in the early 2000s.
Oh my goodness.
A lag switch playing Xbox, so you just drive right through everything.
I have not heard of a lag switch in a very, very long time. Oh my goodness.
You know something that I saw that surprised me in a broadcast the other day? I saw a pit road collision where I thought that they should have been ghosted going to the pits, and both cars got spun around, ruined their race.
Where on pit road were they actually?
I think one was entering the pit stalls and the other was about to enter them, and they just kind of collided right there on the line of where, you know, the pit stalls are, and on the right side. And I don't think they expected to collide, but well, they sure did, and that was the end of their race.
I've had a situation like that, John. Funny enough, except it happened to my teammate where I just completely turned my teammate because they were coming off their pit box and I was coming in, but we both thought we were in the gray area where, you know, you're invisible to each other. Nope, just dumped him on pit lane, completely ruined his race. He was leading the race too, so that one felt great.
All right, 12 laps to go. Nobody's chasing down Gomes. Nobody's going to chase down Barker. No one's going to catch James Wagoner. Matthew Gall. The race is for 5th.
Right now, yeah. It is for 5th between Johnny Hurst and, again, your pole sitter, Daniel Love.
And so this is going to be your closest battle on track. As you can see, they're literally side by side. They're coming down the front stretch right here at 10 to go. You go a little bit further, you got Jeff Scott and Jimmy Rowdy. They're pretty equally the same distance apart. Then you got a battle for 12th between Andrew Smith and Mickey DeVino. And those are going to be your 3 battles. We're going to keep an eye on those for the next 10 laps. The other guys, well, unless something really weird happens, they're not going to be caught.
Well, Mickey actually has not pit yet, so I don't know how this is going to work out for him. Granted, if a caution had come out earlier, I think he was hoping for a caution earlier where he was, because before this was done cycling, he was like 4th or 5th without having pit. So if a caution had come out, then, you know, it would have forced everybody back down pit lane. But I want to go back over to Jimmy Rowdy, where I noticed we mentioned the last time he pit early and you mentioned last time how he had pit a little earlier and how he was having, to adjust as those drivers with fresher tires were coming around him. Well, this time around, he decided to wait an extra lap before coming down, so he pitted a lap later than some of these drivers, where he's going to have the fresher tires, hopefully, and he can be on the offensive instead of the defensive. Again, a great job and great recovery for him, as his championship competitor in points coming into tonight's race is Matthew Ace, having a very bad night right now, in 18th. Off pace, it seems like. I don't know what's wrong. It seems like it's just very, very off pace right now.
I mean, I'm not showing any damage on that machine. That's rather odd. He's really slow. He's coasting. Oh, I bet you he doesn't have enough fuel for some reason. Could he have made a fuel mistake? That's like he's fuel saving right here.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Now that is a catastrophic mistake to have, and nothing that, it's all just, did you set it correctly, at that moment in time. So that could be a catastrophic mistake, and that'll cost him a lot of points here in tonight's race, possibly.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a newer auto fuel feature, and I've heard of some things going wrong with that. I wonder if that could have come into play here for Matthew Barker, or a
lot of people hate that auto fuel.
We should normalize giving race car drivers, call signs like fighter.
Oh, we're wrecking!
Pilots.
Oh, the 29 and the 38 wreck! Oh my goodness!
Just like he drove right through him.
I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it's exactly what it looked like, but that's just so.
But that's
not typical.
How does that happen at 180 miles an hour? That's the question.
Let's see.
It seemed so tame. But
yeah, it just seemed like
wrecked.
it was just so normal almost. We're gonna slow it down here. Actually, let's do.
So it's got a bumper just above, that right rear quarter panel.
Hold on, it's into the next turn. I'm sorry. So he cuts under him here. I don't know if Jeff Scott maybe was gonna try to block him. Oh, Jeff Scott's coming down for the block, and the 29 was there.
Huh.
You
see, now that looks a little more violent, but when we saw it happen, it just looked so tame.
Yes, it was so
calm. Almost like it was choreographed.
Well, and it was because of the way the 38 was coming down on the 29, because it just looked like it was a seamless to go into the turn, but in reality, and again, it could have been that, and he just didn't know the 29 was under there. But well, that'll be the first caution of the day. We'll have to see what race control says and who he determines is at fault. For this league, somebody is typically determined at fault, but there can be racing incidents where he'll give way for.
Yeah, I sort of feel like with 5 to go, that's a race. 6 to go, that's a racing incident. But that's going to change everything. That lead that Gomes had, throw it out the window. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this race where he just absolutely burned everybody. And he can go back to doing that. With only 3 laps to go, he's not going to have to worry about running his tires out. And it looks like Chris Ramsey is going to be off pit road first. Oh, no, excuse me. Ryan Gomes will be off pit road first, but he's got 3 drivers in front of him, Ramsey, Smith, and Davino. Davino's staying out there.
Yeah, Davino, he's on...
Oh, what about that for fuel?
Well...
He's going to come down right now.
Yeah, well, Davino pit on lap 36. I don't know if he can make it on fuel at all. I mean, that's still a long stretch even... Yeah, I think he's trying to coast right now, or he might be out of fuel. That caution might have been the perfect time for him. I don't know. Chris Ramsey and Andrew Smith, the 13 and 14 Ford F-150s, did not pit. They pit on lap 58.
No, the only reason I like this is it's going to be a 2-lap shootout, and they have warm tires.
That is correct. And I'm telling you, cold tires was not pleasant when I did this little practice, with these drivers before the race, before the session opened. You needed that second lap for the tire to really feel like it was going to do something. So, in my opinion, the 13 and 14 need not to battle until the final lap. I think that's their only chance. And it's going to be hard not to, of course, because, it's your chance for the victory. But I think both of their chances goes up significantly if they can hold off battling until then. And then Johnny Hurst, I think he may have taken right sides. He may have been listening to the broadcast. I see only a 10-second pit stop.
Yeah, the 10-second stop, it was probably right sides for Johnny Hurst. And, you know, but the problem is that still puts you on the outside of Ryan Gomes with 4 tires. But for Hurst, it moves him up a couple positions. I want to go back to the beginning of the race. Lap 7, lap 8 was when these guys started putting down their best laps. So it's worth mentioning, as we talked about, the tire pressures and temperatures need to come up. And, but, you know, I believe it's going to be 2 laps to go here. Maybe, yeah, it'll be 2 to go. Unless there's a weird scoring thing. You know, that's not very long. But the thing is there's 3 different grooves on this track. So if I'm Ryan Gomes, I'm going to find the one that these 2 guys are not doing, and I'm going to use that on my fresh tires.
Actually, this might be a natural green-white checkered. Because they just went from 4 to 3. We'll go down to 2, so that should be a natural green-white checker, which means we'll still have 2 more opportunities if need be after this.
I'm all right with it. It's been a very short race. We can try this a couple more times.
I'm excited.
Although the second it goes to the next one, Chris Ramsey and Andrew Smith are toast. Game over. Set match.
So Chris Ramsey, he's on the inside. These drivers do not get that decision of inside or outside. And I honestly, I kind of want to be on the outside. I want to carry the momentum. So I want to be able to pin someone to the inside under me. That's why I think the 58 of Johnny Hurst, he might be in a pretty darn good position, to be honest with you. Because I mentioned 10 laps. He's got some heat in those left side tires, but not a ton of tire wear. But I'll let you take us away since you didn't get to be here for the start.
I mean, I was here for the start. You're just the one that called the start. But, you know, 2 years ago at Homestead-Miami, Tony Trapasso stood up and gave an excellent start to the race. Grandma, grab your popcorn. You got 2 laps to go here at Homestead. Under the lights, my favorite way to race. We're back under green at the high side. Andrew Smith getting a slightly better jump, but they're going to be side by side in a turn 1. Advantage nobody. And those fresh tires for Ryan Gomes not making anything happen just yet, but I think that's going to change coming around to the final lap.
Johnny Hurst super loose through 1 and 2. Throw right side tires out the door. It was not the decision he needed. The question is can the 55 get to the 13 and the 14? Can they throw a block? Will they make it off of 4? We're 3 and almost 4 wide coming to the line.
You know, they're racing right there actually slowed up the 55 of Ryan Gomes, and he doesn't have the ability to drop down because the 46 is in the way. That's Christopher Barker.
Here comes Chris
So he's
Barker.
going to have to try to split these guys.
Chris Barker, he's going to try to steal it. He's going to take first away through 1 and 2. They're wrecking down the backstretch. That was Daniel Love, your pole sitter. Unfortunate for him. Here comes Ryan Gomes through the inside of 3 and 4. I don't think it will be enough. Unbelievable. Last year's champion. He's going to be loose, though. Can he save it? Oh, he loses it. Unbelievable. Ryan Gomez, he's going to take it back away and win this race. Oh, I spoke too soon. Oh, my goodness.
What a way to finish that right there. I was watching Gomes coming, and he was coming quick, and he dropped down to the left, to the bottom of the track. And then Christopher Barker, of course, he knew that the 55 was coming, and he had to do something. So he was hard on the throttle and just stayed on it, and the rear end just stepped out on him, which allowed Gomes with this car, it was a slightly better grip out of the corner just to keep the momentum up, and just edged him out, just barely.
Wow. Okay, so that was good. That was a finish right there. Oh my goodness. Let's get him in here. Let's get the right thing set up. Here we go. Is Ryan? Oh, there he is. Ryan, this is Angel and John here in the SRM broadcast booth. You got me, buddy.
I got you, Angel.
All right, Ryan. Well, first, I know I've butchered your name 6 million times. Say your last name correctly for everyone.
It's Gomes.
Okay, so we got it right today. I got it right today, except for the first time.
Yeah, until the final call.
Ryan, unbelievable. You had it, you didn't have it, you had it again, and then you lost it, but you took it right back at the end. Walk us through those final 2 laps and what was going through your head. Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know how old the tires those guys were on ahead of us. I knew Johnny'd have a pretty good run on the bottom. Yeah, I was just, definitely a roller coaster of emotions, I guess. Set sail on the early one, and then when Chris caught me, that was kind of a godsend because it made me realize I needed to save a little bit more on these tires. And yeah, just cruising away and just every lap praying no yellow, no yellow. Oh, there's the yellow. So no, it was fun. I mean, he had me covered there at the end. I kind of dropped my head in disgust, and all of a sudden he was in the wall and we were under him for the win. So
Oh my goodness, that was amazing. I mean, we were just talking about how fitting of a finish it was for you that you dominated this race, and then John had mentioned it earlier where you adjusted very well in that second run. Chris Barker had caught you so easily, it felt like, and then suddenly that second run there was no catching you. What were you able to adjust for yourself in your driving?
Oh, like I said, I mean, when he caught me, I knew I was just using him up. I'm sure you guys seen it a couple times. I lost it off of 4. So
oh, yeah.
just really had to try to calm myself down and try to save some rubber on this tire. I tried to short pit him, and I think he caught on because he came in the lap right after me. I thought I'd gain a little bit more on him, but no, he came back out, and I just luckily saved enough on him to be there at the end.
Wow, that unbelievable. John, you got anything here for our race winner here before we let him celebrate?
Negative. That was just an awesome move, and didn't doubt himself with the last 2 laps. And the fresh tires, they came in a little quicker than I expected.
Yeah, I'm just glad we could put on a show. I know we got Johnny Hurst up here. I know last time I think I ran with you guys was there at Eldora, and man, that was a finish too. So no, this series, it's awesome. You guys got a lot of good guys running it, you guys announcing it. So I try to run it when the schedule allows, because heck, we almost went 80 laps with no cautions. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and I mentioned, we hadn't seen you in a little while, so great way to come back and get yourself a victory. Do we see you next week at Watkins Glen? And if so, is that a track that bodes well for you?
I'm a solid mid-pack guy at road courses. I'm going to try. I'd like to. With work and everything, it's kind of tough being West Coast, getting off at 4:30 to make it here. But
that is understandable.
Let's hope it. I'm going to hope I can make it.
Hey, that's understandable. Life does come first. Ryan, go ahead and thank who you got to thank. Friends, family, sponsors, whoever you got to do, and we'll let you celebrate this victory.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think I kind of said it with just you guys up there in the booth doing it and this league, and them let me run it. And I've, been watching what the admins are doing and them teaming up with some other leagues and really growing this league. It's awesome to see, and congratulations to those guys and you guys up the booth.
Hey, we appreciate it so much. Yep, a lot of moving forward here, and we're happy to be a part of it. Congratulations again, Ryan, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right, John, that was our race winner. I'll let you go ahead and take the lead on Chris Barker, if I can find him. Actually, Chris Barker might not be in Discord. No, okay. No, there he is. Oh my goodness, he's right there. Chris, it's Angel and John here in the SRM broadcast booth. You got us.
I do, brother.
I almost missed you there. I'll let John take this one away, but happy to have you back here in the top 3, buddy.
Man, I'm telling you.
Go ahead, John.
Ryan got a bad run there at the end, sorry. And, dude, I knew I had it, and I was being so easy. I knew I had it, and, man, next thing I know, I was getting sideways. Dude, I thought I was going to spin out. My heart rate was 200, man, when I come across the finish line.
Well, I mean, once it broke loose, you didn't really have any other option but to stay in it and hope it worked out. And you were just too sideways, and he had grip. You didn't, and he just...
dude, I don't even care about the win. I'm glad to see him win it. Man, I thought I was going to spin out and take a bunch of people out, dude. Phew, it scared the crap out of me. If the wall wasn't have been there, I probably would have came around. I felt like I was being super easy on the throttle, too, because I could see, he didn't get that good. He was far enough behind, I thought I had it, and I was being super easy, but I guess I mashed it a little more than I thought.
Well, I just want to take a second to mention everybody listening here to the race. That is a true competitor and respectful racer, and in my opinion, to be like, oh gosh, I don't want to spin this thing around in front of the field, coming to the checkered flag. So kudos to you for making that statement. But I mean, you gave us a show coming into turn number 3, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go down, you or him. And either way, fireworks for the end of this one.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it was a great finish, man. Shout out to Ryan. He's a hell of a racer, man. He's so consistent. If you get behind him, that's probably where you're going to stay. He's tough to pass.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Actually, one last thing I've got. Tell us, how was the track? Was the fall off immediate, or was it gradual over the course of the run?
It felt pretty gradual there. I think the last long run we had, I might have heated my tires up pretty quick. So it was really just how you drove the truck. You know, you could overheat them really quick, or if you took your time, kind of like I did in the first run there. I felt like Ryan maybe burnt his up a little quick, and I think he learned after that first pit there. He stayed out. I couldn't never catch him.
Yeah, we mentioned that on the show. He ran a little bit hard and then kind of learned his lesson. But that being said, the floor is yours. If there's anyone else you'd like to mention before we let you go.
Oh my gosh, Ruff-Neck. Obviously, man, this is a great league. I love it. I do. The sponsor, James Wagoner's Welding. Shout out to him. It's awesome that he loves watching this so much that he's willing to sponsor this deal. My teammates, Jeffrey, Steven. Y'all guys, y'all do an awesome job. My wife and kids for letting me play this game so much. I guess that's it, man.
That's a good one. We always got to thank our family for letting us do this. Every night after a show, I've got to go thank my woman and say thank you for letting me do this. I know it can be a little bit much, and they don't always understand the passion that we have for it. But I hope you have a good night, and thanks for the show.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Go ahead, Angel.
All right, John. Oh, let's see. That didn't work. There you go. Yeah, John. I don't think if we don't do our jobs in thanking our ladies after this, they'll be telling each other that.
I mean, maybe.
We typically would. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can find Johnny Hurst and get our third place finisher in here. But I think he may have head out already. Yeah, Johnny Hurst not in. We'll get a chance to talk with him next week from Corbin, Kentucky. There, Johnny. We've spoken to him a couple different times. Definitely exciting one always to get a chance to speak with. So we'll go ahead and go over our race results here for tonight's 80-lap event at Homestead-Miami Speedway. Ryan Gomes, butchered his name 6 million times over the last 2 seasons. We'll finally get it figured out here. Gets his first career victory in the Ruff-Neck Racing Truck Series tonight. Chris Barker, last year's champion, had it won in the last turn and then lost it, unfortunately. But you saw the excitement. You can hear the excitement in his voice. As John mentioned, a great competitor in that. Johnny Hurst in third, Stephen Shue in fourth, James Wagner in fifth, Adam Sprinkle, nice recovery up to the 6th position, Andrew Smith in 7th, Jimmy Rowdy in 8th, Matthew Gall in 9th, and then Jeff Scott will round out the top 10.
So coming on P11 is going to be Chris Ramsey. We saw him up front. That was a 13. He stayed out with those tires from lap 58. It did not work out for him. He was on the front row with the last 2 laps, finished 11th. 12th is going to be Daniel Love, who another driver we saw around the top 5, just, I guess, the end of the race, just not panning out. Perhaps he was a part of that group that we saw kind of wrecking coming towards the end. 13th is Chad Hawkins. Ty Trafford is 14th. Coming home 15th is going to be Mickey DeVino, who I thought might have had a really good strategy, but you see he had to pit around lap 81. Jeffrey Ledford, Jonathan Vandenberg, Tim Richardson, and then Matthew Barker having a rough night to race. Our rough race tonight is going to finish out the field in 19th. And I'm showing Jason Kinney, but I believe he's race control.
No, actually, Jason Kinney is not race control. Looks like he just didn't start the race tonight for some reason. So Jason Kinney's there, but didn't officially start, so he'll be there in 20th. So yes, as mentioned, bad night for Matthew Ace. Definitely going to be a big points hit for him as Jimmy Rowdy was able to finish in 8th, and then Daniel Love getting loose there and finishing 12th at the end. That's really going to hurt him, as what could have been a good points day for him. Next week, we mentioned we head to upstate New York for the lefts and rights of Watkins Glen, one of my favorite tracks as well. I am excited to be able to get to broadcast that one. I want to thank everybody, as always, for joining in with us in the chat. We always love getting to chat with everybody. If you haven't already, we're a little bit late in the show, but like, share, subscribe, whatever you got to do, get those bell notifications running here. for the Sim Racing Media Network. John, we have so many shows that we have going on here, so much action that these guys, all these fans can be able to witness all week long. And of course, as always, right back here on Wednesday nights. John, you got anything to close us out?
Nothing left to say other than what an outstanding race under the lights at Homestead. Favorite racetrack, favorite style of racing under the lights. And if you're interested in broadcasting, I want you on my team. So feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you. And other than that, I'm ready to call it a show.
Yeah, well, you guys see how much fun I have on here, so definitely, absolutely, reach out if even if it's not John. If you reach out to us here in chat, we'd be happy to do whatever we got to do. A ton of fun, as I mentioned to Paul before this race. How'd you get started in this? I said, John, Cliff. They brought me in from a series we raced in, and it's been family since. And we don't see it any other way. So we thank everybody for joining us again, as always, here on the Sim Racing Media Network for the Ruff-Neck Racing Truck Series, brought to you by James Wagner's Welding and AdminBoxx. We'll see you next week at Watkins Glen. Have a great night, everybody.